Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from MaliciousCompliance, and some of them are a little longer today. Story 1 is by Comply Maliciously 24. You are not allowed to leave. You have to testify as a witness. This just happened about an hour ago, but here's the backstory. About 2.5 years ago, my apartment was broken into during a camping trip. Some things were stolen, including multiple firearms. A 1.5 years ago, one of my firearms was found with some kids selling crack in a small city right on the border of the next state. The plea deals fell through, and the girl the cops initially had mentioned was going to trial. I received a letter in the mail telling of the court date and location. It is explicitly not a summons. Whatever, I want my gun back sooner or later, so I go. Both the prosecutor and the assistant prosecutor are out sick, one with COVID. They make us hang around for a while for no reason, and eventually I just leave. They didn't like that. But whatever, being there was legally voluntary. I tell them they can mail me the new date and I'll deal with it then. 3 weeks go by and here we are this morning. I get home from work and I check my mail. There are 2 letters. One is for the first girl and another is from a guy I know just as an accomplice from the updates about the girl. His trial is today and hers is tomorrow. I go to the courthouse 40 minutes away and let them know I'm here. Everything is fine. They bring in the jury pool and spend about 2 hours getting down to 7 jurors. The trial starts and we're just patiently waiting, 4 cops and 1 other civilian victim and witness. They tell us no worries, this will be super quick, as they basically just need to ask if it's the firearm I reported stolen and I'll be on my way. They call in the cops who are getting paid this whole time first. Now it's 1 p.m. I've been up for 24 hours on 3 hours of sleep the day before, after working a 12+ hour overnight shift. My entire body is cramping. I'm super uncomfortable. I'm exhausted. I last ate at 10 p.m. The assistant district attorney comes out and tells us they're taking an hour lunch break. I tell her I can't stay and I need to leave. She tells me I'm not allowed to. I already presented as a witness to the judge. I'd been summoned. I hadn't. They can charge me with this or that, and the cops tell me they could detain me. The judge orders me, after I point out I haven't been summoned again and again, this is voluntary. Basically, they just try to strong-arm me when all I want to do is go home. I point out that this guy isn't even who I was told was found with my gun. The assistant DA starts explaining how, oh no, he totally was. I don't know who you heard that from. My local PD mentioned the girl by name originally, giving me all these details about the case. Then, re-emphasizing, I really must stay or I'll be charged with a crime. Don't worry though, we'll get you in right away so you can leave soon. Soon being more than an hour, minimum. Here's the thing. The judge issued a sequester order first thing in the morning before jury selection. I say fine and wait. Here comes the single greatest act of malicious compliance I've ever committed in my life. All the attorneys come in. All the jury comes in. The judge makes me swear to tell the truth. I do. As soon as I finish, I blurt out the prosecutor broke the sequester and was telling me about the case during the break. Stop. Everyone, except the lawyers, out, including me. Eventually, they just bring me back in. The judge again makes me swear to tell the truth, confirms that I understand what's happening, tells me the importance of a fair trial. Maybe don't witness tamper then? And explains that witnesses are never to volunteer information and are to only answer the questions. You've been summoned and it's a legal obligation. I let him finish and then mention that I have never been summoned. He says, then I'm ordering you. Understood? Yes. Everyone comes back in. We all take our oaths again. The prosecutor that was threatening me starts asking questions. Here's the thing. I swore to tell the truth. I never agreed to tell it in a way that makes her life easier. She asks me some basic questions. Name, age, what I do for work, etc. Then she gets into the actual questions. Do I own weapons? Did I report any stolen around this date? Did I own one of this model? Did I report this model stolen, etc.? Is this your gun? It certainly looks like it. Did the XX police call you when it was recovered? No. Who did? YY Police Department, my local PD. Did they give you any details regarding how it was recovered? They said it was allegedly used in a crime by a girl's name. Defense objects, and the judge strikes that from testimony. By now, the DA is realizing that she's giving me too much leeway and starts asking for yes or no answers. Eventually asks if I recognize the serial number if I saw it. I tell her no, and that roughly sums up my questions from her. Then it's the defendant's turn, and it goes exactly as you would expect by now. I answer truthfully, but in favorable wording. You said it looks like your gun, but you can't confirm? I'd need to compare the serial number against the police report or the gun shop, which still has it on record. Do you know who stole your firearm? No. Do you recognize Z? No. She asked a few more plausible deniability questions, and then I was free to go. I can't wait to be back tomorrow for the girls' trial. I'll probably be much less malicious, but I know the DA will be nervous when she sees me. Court is officially over, so the sequester order is no longer in effect. Good times, and don't worry. If I botched her case in this regard, the kid had more than enough charges. He should have taken the plea deal. It's unfortunate, especially in the United States. They don't care about what happened to the victim. They don't care about getting you your gun back or anything like that. They just want to take as much time as possible to pay people as much as possible in court, drag it out, and then get some sort of punishment on somebody, because prisons and jails in the US are pretty much for profit. They make money off people being in jail. It's really stupid. That's why there's so many harsh punishments for prisoners who didn't do anything violent at all. Our next story is by Doormat97. You don't want to wait patiently for 30 seconds? Then you'll be forced to wait patiently for an hour or more. My dad, who's 64, has always been a patient man, back when I, 32, was younger. But lately, his patience is getting thinner than my receding hairline. Lol. Maybe it comes with age, but please do correct me if I'm wrong. He gets frustrated easily on things if it's a normal everyday moment, like long lines, light traffic, waiting for people even if he's early for the time of the appointment. I hope I got my point across. A while ago, I called my supplier to order some copper wires to replenish our stock as I'm doing inventory. We own a small contracting firm. My dad told me to drop what I'm currently doing and drive him somewhere before we go to our supplier to pick up the goods. As I started my car, our supplier texted me to message the said orders for confirmation purposes and to avoid any errors. My dad immediately blurted, "That stuff can wait. Let's go." Me, "But Dad, this is from our..." Dad, somehow irritated, "That can wait. Let's go." Me, "Okay, whatever you say." When we arrived at our supplier's store, my dad was surprised as the receptionist told him that we didn't order anything and they didn't receive any confirmation from us. Annoyed, Dad told me, "I thought you already called them to order." Me, "Remember that text I was replying to? Yeah, it's the supplier asking for confirmation. You can't wait for 30 freaking seconds for me to reply. You'll be waiting here for 30 minutes or so for it to be done." Ending. We waited for more than an hour as there were a lot of orders before they could process ours. He's annoyed as heck but doesn't have any choice but to bear the consequences of his impatience. His torment worsened as he can't change the channel on the TV and it shows a sucky afternoon drama. Me? I have my portable game console with me at all times. Time passed like a breeze. I'm just going to go straight to the comments because it's important what they have to share. By Zephin Just Zephin. That is good malicious compliance. But if your dad's personality has changed and he has become impatient and short-tempered, that could be the early warning sign for dementia or hopefully some other more easily rectified health problem. By Beneficial Rest 1372. Seriously, my dad was never patient to begin with, but got much worse as Alzheimer's kicked in. At the same age as your dad. By the time we got him evaluated and diagnosed, he had already lost a lot of mental acuity. There are meds that can slow the progression. The sooner you start, the better. Underneath that by Oi Laura. Came here to say this. It took years for it to manifest, but looking back, I now see that my dad became much more impatient and difficult to deal with. We were at an event where you get onion rings made to order. They looked delicious, and they were. They would finish the order and it would have to sit for at least a minute to come to lower temperature for the sake of safety before they would give it to you. My normally placid, calm dad came completely unglued. I had to pull him aside and explain to him that they legally couldn't give them to him because he would burn himself if he even touched them. I had no clue at the time, but later on he was diagnosed with early onset dementia. I hate to think about what was going through his mind, and I'm happy that he passed before it got to be too bad. OP needs to keep an eye on their dad and get a full checkup now. They have meds that can help. Our last story today is by TB. Someone I barely knew was too lazy to ask me for a reference. Face the consequences. This happened a few years ago. I received a phone call from an HR person from a staffing agency I almost worked for at one point. That's another funny story for another day. I got through the greetings and small talk and got down to business. HR. I have a person you know applying for a job with one of our customers. Me. Sort of confused, no one gave me a heads up. Who are we talking about? HR. Your friend Mo. Me? Who? HR. Mo last name. He said he worked with you at the email company. Me. Oh, okay. I remember him. But I am not sure why he would put my name down. We didn't work all that closely. I interacted with his team only peripherally because we had equipment in his office. I don't really feel comfortable providing a reference. HR. Well, that's sort of our fault. We sort of pressured him to cough up references on the fly. Me. I don't feel comfortable providing a reference. HR. Come on, OP. We know each other. Help me out. Me. Well, not being his manager, I can't discuss his performance. HR. Okay, can I ask you about his technical skills and you can comment on those? Me. Fine. Ask away. HR. How is Mo with software package number 1? Me. Okay, I guess. Maybe 2.5 out of 5? 5 out of 5 is extremely rare for this software. I might be 4.7 and I've used the software for 20 plus years and even flown to the vendor's headquarters to work on technology issues and help design future versions of products with them. HR. Great. How is he with hardware platform number 1? Me. Well, in the time he was at the email company, he never touched the platform. If he gained knowledge from elsewhere, I can't comment. HR. Wait, that can't be right. He said he led the hardware platform number 1 refresh project. Me. Well, that's not true. HR. Email company is huge. Is it possible you weren't aware of the project? Me. No, I'm very aware of the project and he wasn't leading it. HR. How can you be so sure? Me. Because I led that project. HR. Very uncomfortably. Oh. Me. I think it's best for everyone we end the call here. I think you have a phone call to make. HR. Yeah, that's probably best. I didn't necessarily bash him, but just set the record straight. Oh, that sucks for him. He is going to be sunk for getting that job. Down in the comments by Punk Linux. I was stunned when a former project manager claimed that I was his direct supervisor. I was not. And that he was in charge of a bunch of stuff I have never even heard of, and I doubt my former company even did. This PM was an incompetent tool who had been removed from a few projects because he was really bad at his job. He was one of those people who did nothing for 90% of the time given, and then the last 10% micromanaged down everyone's throats with impossible last-minute demands. I only worked with him in a peripheral level. My boss was part of a few of his projects, and then he trickled down to me anything he needed me to do. And every time, my boss would spend a few minutes ranting about him. I know that this is last minute, but is there any way you could provision 30 systems in the next 24 hours with no specs except that they are quality assurance? No? Not surprising. At least I checked. Guess who asked in today's quarterly project planning meeting? Yes, they rolled back the huge rock in front of the cave where this idiot hibernates. I only met him in person a few times. He had this nodding, cross-armed Mussolini stance and crap-eating grin when he spoke. Instantly punchable and prone to tantrums. He wasn't fired as much as his contract wasn't renewed. So I was blindsided that he claimed that he was my top project manager. I hired for all sorts of projects of security clearance. And this investigator went down a list where I started off, maybe they have me confused with someone else, and ended the call with both of us realizing he made everything up. Some names and a few dates were correct, but everything else was, I have never heard of that, or, no, he did not do that for my company, as far as I know. My favorite. He claims he won top awards for his work. Do you know which awards? I don't think that the company gave anyone awards outside of sales. So you didn't give him top manager of the year for 3-year span? He was only with the company for 1 year. My guess is that the kind of denial people like him have crosses from fraud into delusions on the level of pathological. And this was security clearance. You don't F with security clearance. Just a tiny note before I comment on the story. I snapshot this at 666 upvotes. The devil is in the detail. Anyway, yes, does this person have delusions where they actually believed that they did all those things? Or are they just flat out lying? Are they fraudulent, as they say? It makes you wonder. I think there's quite a few people in the world that will submit an application to a place with references and descriptions of what their job was, and they assume the place isn't going to read it. I'm just going to make myself look amazing. And what are they going to do about it? Just not hire them, right? Are they going to take this application and send it to a fraud department and say this guy is lying? The worst thing that can happen to them is they don't get the job, right? Does anybody out there know more of what legally can happen to somebody if you lie, outright lie like this on an application? I feel like there has to be some sort of consequence. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a stellar day.